Where are elements going to be on the page? How many different types of layouts you're going to have? We tackle that with what we call wireframes. So wireframes are kind of the framework of your site. We've done the site map, so we know the hierarchy of the site, how many pages, where the pages are, how they link, and now we're going to sort of design the layout of the pages. So this is a very fast process. There's really no design involved here. This is purely layout. There's no colors. There's really no graphics. This is a very fast iterative process to prototype. Prototype how your pages are going to be laid out. So I'm actually going to switch the poll here quick before we get too much into the next one. Looks like a lot of you are planning for a redesign. That's great. Perfect timing then. You can use this content to help you with that. So I'll launch another poll here if you'd like to answer that. So the wireframes are a very important step. We spend a fair amount of time on it, but it's a very fast iterative process to kind of end up getting to the ideal layout. And not necessarily every single page in your sitemap is going to have a corresponding wireframe. What we're doing is we are wireframing the major sections of your site or the major pages. So we're going to be, doing the home page, of course, any major landing page or any major section, we're going to be wireframing these. And this is the stage in which that UX review I talked about earlier is incredibly valuable, because you'll be able to see how far people scrolled or what they clicked on, how they interacted. And if you saw specific issues, this is the stage in which you can address those issues and solve them. So this is another valuable tool for the user flow, kind of how people are going to flow through the sections of the home page or different pages. So this is a very important step. And this is kind of typically what they look like. They may be black and white or kind of shades of blue, but they're typically monochrome. And remember, we talked about content before this. So if you do these steps in the order we're recommending, now you have real content, real refreshed new content to put into your actual wireframe, so you can make sure you don't have too much content in one area or not enough, so that you can balance out content and buttons and white space and links and really create a thoughtful, balanced approach to the website, to how people use the content, use the links, do all that stuff. So it's very, very valuable step, the wireframing. And for interactivity, we use wireframes to actually plan out some of that interactivity as well. So you have a map or pop-ups or different things or chat. You can even bring that into the wireframe process. It's important to kind of not overdo the interactivity. Think about that. You may want to plan for having probably 1 to 3 major actions to take on a page. But you don't want to take every single action or CTA or conversion you want users to do and cram them all on every single page. So plan out the interactivity. Don't overdo it. Make sure it's pretty consistent so people know where to click. Make sure, for instance, like your chat button or your contact button doesn't move around. Make sure it's in the same place. And for sure, don't forget about mobile. We don't always do dedicated mobile wireframes or interactivity plans. Sometimes we do. It depends. Typically, we are doing what's called a responsive design. So things are going to collapse in a very predictable way, and the mobile usually works pretty well. But you do need to think about mobile here, especially if you did that UX review and you saw some huge differences between desktop and mobile. Someone answered, is there a place to find sample wireframes? I'm sure there would be. If you just Googled sample website wireframes, you could probably find some. And of course, you'll get a link to the on-demand version of this webinar, and you could always just look at these again. So plan that interactivity. We typically will plan it with wireframes. So here you can see this isn't the whole page, but this is a pop-up that's going to come up. And we have these choices and an option to kind of move on to the next step of this interactivity. So we have a little map here of how we're going to plan that out. We planned out this was a very important area of this nonprofit site. The chat, a very interactive map and lots of buttons and things to click on. So we planned this out really well too. So it's really important for this interactivity to be easy, valuable, useful. We wanted to nail it. So we did the wireframes and planned it out. So we have some more questions about best practice redundancy of information. In general, the sitemap and the wireframes are the two most important things for planning where that content's going to live. And definitely put content in sections that make sense. So you don't want to necessarily have a giant chunk of content that's important everywhere. If it doesn't make sense to be in, these other places, keep it in siloed in places that users will expect that content to be there. You really want to make sure that your website is predictable as people navigate and go to a section called whatever, that section, the content in there makes sense to the user.